A person stands in the checkout line at Trader Joe's, holding a basket with a frozen meal, coffee, and groceries. 3 people wait impatiently behind the person in line. The person slides their card at the payment terminal. The payment terminal displays a declined message. The person looks confused and slightly embarrassed. Cut to Nick in his home studio, warmly lit with a bookshelf and a YNAB logo visible. Nick looks into the camera, sympathetic but serious. Nick explains that maybe the chip is dirty. The person wipes their card on their shirt and tries again. The person starts to sweat, feeling anxious. The person pulls out their phone and opens their banking app. The phone screen shows a login error. Contact administrator. Your account has been suspended. The person's face falls as they realize they have zero access to their money. A calendar or phone notification shows that rent payment is scheduled for tomorrow. Another notification shows direct deposit is expected on Friday. The person looks increasingly stressed, clutching their phone. Nick's voiceover explains that this isn't a glitch, but a feature. Nick warns viewers that without changing a specific setting, they could be next. Nick introduces himself and his expertise in banking systems. Nick encourages viewers to subscribe and like the video. Nick promises to go deep into the math, algorithms, and psychology behind account closures. Nick assures viewers he will show exact steps to prevent account freezing. Nick begins the reality check, challenging viewers' assumptions about banks. Nick describes the common belief that a bank account is a digital vault. Nick explains that banks see customers as risk profiles, not just account holders. Nick discusses the banking industry's shift toward de-risking. Nick shares statistics about the rise in suspicious activity reports (SARs). A graph appears showing SARs rising from 1.6 million in 2013 to 3.6 million in 2022. Nick emphasizes that most SARs are about regular people, not criminals. Nick explains that banks rarely tell customers why accounts are closed. A letter appears on screen: "We have elected to end our relationship." Nick compares account closure to a breakup via text message. A visual shows the bank keeping the person's money for 60 days during investigation. A person imagines their $15,000 emergency fund frozen for 2 months. A calculator or infographic shows the impact of inflation on frozen funds. Nick highlights the psychological stress of losing access to money. The person sits at home looking worried and stressed, unable to pay bills. Nick's voiceover reassures viewers that solutions exist. Nick prepares to reveal the specific profile setting to check in the banking app. The person scrolls through their banking app settings, searching for the right option. Nick encourages viewers to take control of their financial security. Nick promises to guide viewers step by step. The person looks hopeful as Nick begins to explain the solution. Nick's studio background reinforces his expertise and trustworthiness. A split screen shows Nick talking and the person following his instructions on their phone. The person finds the setting Nick described and toggles it. A notification appears confirming the account is now more secure. The person smiles, relieved and confident. Nick concludes by reminding viewers to stay vigilant and informed. The person leaves Trader Joe's groceries in hand, feeling empowered. End screen with Nick's call to action. Subscribe, like, and share for more financial tips. A customer stands at a bank counter looking confused as a teller hands back their ID and informs them their account is closed. A visual overlay appears showing the words cost versus risk with icons representing money and warning signs. A digital animation shows AI and machine learning algorithms scanning through streams of transaction data. A series of transactions light up on a digital dashboard, highlighting patterns and anomalies. A cartoonish robot representing the algorithm looks at a transaction and scratches its head, not understanding the context. The robot only sees numbers and patterns, not the human story behind them. A whiteboard appears with Nick standing next to it, ready to explain an example. Nick draws a car on the whiteboard and writes $9,500 cash next to it. A Craigslist logo appears and hands exchange cash for car keys. A thought bubble shows someone thinking about the $10,000 IRS reporting rule. The person decides to deposit $9,500 at the bank. A bank teller accepts the $9,500 deposit with a neutral expression. The algorithm's dashboard flashes red as it detects a deposit just under $10,000. Nick points to the whiteboard, explaining the suspicious nature of the $9,500 deposit. A digital Christmas tree lights up, symbolizing the account being flagged. Nick raises the stakes. The person now has $12,000 in cash. A calendar appears, showing deposits of $4,000 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The person smiles, thinking they're being clever by splitting up the deposits. A mathematical formula appears on the whiteboard. $4,000 plus $4,000 plus $4,000 equals $12,000 in 1 week. The algorithm highlights the pattern as structuring and flashes a warning. A legal document appears with the words federal crime, structuring. Nick explains the math the bank sees, with transaction data filling the screen. A digital hand stamps account closed on the customer's profile. The customer receives a cold, automated email. Your account has been closed. No human interaction occurs. The process is entirely automated. Nick addresses the audience, warning that digital transactions are also monitored. Icons for Venmo, PayPal, and Zelle appear on the screen. A freelancer receives multiple small payments from clients via Zelle. A bank statement fills up with $500 and $600 deposits. A warning icon appears. High-risk commercial activity on a consumer account. The algorithm flags the account for business activity on a personal account. A profit-loss chart shows the bank's cost to monitor the account outweighs the profit. A summary appears. Cost to monitor you greater than profit made from holding your money. The account is closed, not for fraud, but for being unprofitable and risky. Nick transitions to the next topic, the importance of updating your profile. A smartphone screen shows a banking app interface. The user navigates to profile or settings in the app. The personal information and employment sections are highlighted. A flashback shows the user entering student and $35,000 years ago. Time passes, and the user now earns $85,000 and is self-employed. Large transfers and investments appear on the account. The bank's KYC profile expects $2,000 a month, but actual deposits are $8,000 a month. A risk meter rises as the gap between expected and actual activity grows. The algorithm suspects the account is compromised or sold to a bad actor. Nick advises. Update your income and employment profile. A checklist appears. Update income, update employment, explain large deposits. A warning flashes. Ignoring these steps is flirting with disaster. Nick shifts to discussing the psychology of safety. A family stands in front of a bank, feeling secure and trusting. Suddenly, the bedrock cracks, and the family looks alarmed. A house with the front door wide open triggers a sense of fear. Nick suggests changing mindset from trusting to managing the system. A bouncer stands at the entrance of an exclusive club, checking guests. The bouncer enforces rules without caring about personal stories. A guest wearing expensive sneakers is turned away without explanation, Nick advises. Don't argue with the bouncer, just wear the right shoes. A secret back door to the club opens, hinting at having backup options. Nick stands in front of the camera, addressing the audience with a serious expression. Nick emphasizes that the most important part of the video is the solution to banking pipeline risks. Nick clarifies that the solution is not to avoid banks, but to use them wisely. Nick introduces the concept of redundancy, referencing engineering principles. A visual metaphor of an airplane with multiple engines is shown, highlighting how redundancy prevents failure. Nick compares personal finance to flying on one engine, illustrating the risk. Nick describes the typical setup most people have with their bank accounts. Graphic appears, showing all accounts, checking, savings, credit card at Chase. Nick explains the danger. If Chase shuts down your accounts, you lose all access to your money. Nick introduces the hub-and-spoke model with a backup generator as the solution. A diagram of the hub-and-spoke model appears, showing the main hub, firewall savings, and local connection. Explains the primary hub, the main checking account where your paycheck is deposited. Nick describes the firewall savings, a savings account at a completely different bank. Nick explains the importance of not just a different branch, but a different institution. Nick introduces the local connection, a credit union account. Nick elaborates on why the credit union is crucial. The scene shows a person walking into a credit union and talking to a human named Susan. Nick contrasts big banks run by algorithms with credit unions run by people. A scenario is depicted where the main hub account gets frozen. Transfers made from firewall savings to local connection to pay the mortgage. Nick presents the math of redundancy, showing the probability of account lockouts. A probability chart appears, illustrating the risk over 20 years. Nick explains how having 2 accounts at different banks reduces the risk to near zero. Nick anticipates objections from the audience. Scene shows viewers yelling at the screen, claiming fear-mongering. Nick acknowledges normality bias and explains how the banking landscape has changed recently. Nick brings up the topic of cryptocurrency as a major concern. A visual of a person buying or selling cryptocurrency is shown. Nick warns about major banks' hostile policies toward crypto exchanges. Scenarios depicted where someone transfers money directly from their main checking account to a crypto exchange. Nick warns about exposing primary liquidity to high-risk activity. The bank flags the crypto exchange as high risk and closes the account. Nick introduces the buffer account as a solution. A diagram shows the flow. Main hub buffer account greater than exchange. Nick explains that if the buffer account gets shut down, you can still buy groceries. Nick introduces ChexSystems as another layer of the banking system. A graphic appears showing the ChexSystems logo and its role as a consumer reporting agency. Nick explains that ChexSystems tracks banking behavior and issues a bank score. A nightmare scenario unfolds. Bank A closes your account. The person tries to open an account at Bank B, but is denied due to a ChexSystems flag. The person tries Bank C and is denied again. The individual is now unbanked, forced to use check cashing places and prepaid debit cards. Nick warns viewers not to ignore letters from the bank. The scene shows someone receiving a warning letter and responding immediately. Nick advises viewers to keep their ChexSystems report clean. Nick informs viewers they can request their ChexSystems report for free once a year. Nick transitions to the action plan and conclusion. Nick presents a to-do list for viewers to follow. Step 1. Log into your banking app and update your personal and employment information. Step 2. Stop structuring cash deposits. Deposit the full amount and fill out the form. Step 3. Separate business and personal expenses by opening a business checking account. Step 4. Build the backup by opening a secondary account at a different institution and funding it. Nick slows down, speaking warmly about the importance of money for families. Nick explains that the banking system is becoming more automated and rigid. Nick encourages viewers to learn the rules of the system and take control. Nick urges viewers to set up redundancy and be intentional with their finances. Nick asks viewers to like the video if they found it helpful. Nick points to another video for further information on organizing finances. Nick thanks the audience for watching and signs off.